Exhibit 1, Mr. Stone. That's an amended notice of deposition. You've seen that before, have you not?
Okay, I'm going to place you under oath. Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear from the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'll show you Exhibit 1, Mr. Stone. That's an amended notice of deposition. You've seen that before, have you not?
I don't recall.
You are aware, however, that this deposition was to begin at 9 a.m. this morning?
That is correct.
And you are aware that this notice of deposition was filed in the court file and sent to your counsel on at least 2 occasions, correct?
Yes.
Yet you showed up 40 minutes late. That's correct, is it
My
not?
understanding is that there was a problem with notice on location.
There's no problem. Look at the...
You want to get started? Let's get started. With
No, I'm
the real
not getting
questions.
started. I want this on the record. 110
Okay,
Southeast 6th Street, let me finish. Suite 1700, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 33301, correct?
As I explained to you off the record, you noticed this at my office, and then without any highlight that you changed the address without consulting, a phone call, or saying, I changed the address, please note the change of address. Had you done that at 9:15, we would have gotten started, but we had to get in a car and come here instead of stay in my office building.
In fact, this meta notice of deposition was filed, for the record, in the court file, and you get electronic transmissions, do you not, Mr. Pichel?
I'm not discussing it, I'm not the witness, but
And in
that's
fact-
the explanation.
And in fact, yesterday I sent a copy to you by email again, did I not?
Seems extraordinarily petty to me.
Well,
Want to get started?
It's not petty, Mr. Stone. You
Your time's not more valuable than mine. Could
you
we
have,
just go ahead?
you have little to no respect for court or judicial process, do you?
Objection. We're not answering that question. So let's get started with the facts of the lawsuit of this case.
Has your counsel advised you on what it means to be under oath?
Objection. That's attorney-client privilege. He's under oath. Let's begin the deposition.
Mr. Stone, you've been convicted of perjury on 5 counts, have you not?
Objection. We're not talking about the any criminal aspect of any criminal case.
So you're aware that it's a crime to not testify truthfully or to withhold facts?
That you can answer.
Yes.
Okay. When were you born?
August 27th, 1952.
And run us through briefly your educational background.
I went to John Jay High School. I went to the Lewisboro Elementary School in Lewisboro, New York. I went to John Jay High School in Katona, New York. I did about a year and a half at George Washington University in Washington, D.C.
And when did you graduate at George? I take it you just did a year at George Washington,
A
correct?
little bit more.
What
but
did you do after that?
I went to work for the Committee to Re-elect the President of the United States.
That was President Richard Nixon.
Correct.
And how long did you work there?
Well, I joined in 71 through Election Day 72.
And what happened after Election Day 72? What did you do at that time?
I worked for the inaugural committee for the President.
Okay. And how long did you work for them?
Well, through the inauguration, which is in January
And what
of
happened?
73.
What happened after January 73 in terms of your employment?
I believe I went to the Office of Economic Opportunity, but I'm not certain.
And how long did you work there?
Very briefly. I went there essentially to work on a project.
So what happened after then? in
I
terms
was out of
employment?
work after that.
And how long were you out of work?
Well, let's see. I'm uncertain.
When was the next time you were gainfully employed?
Probably when I went to work for Senator Bob Dole in 1973, late 73.
And what was your position?
I was a research assistant to the senator.
And how long did you remain a research assistant to Senator Bob Dole?
Through about the middle of 1974, as I recall.
What kind of research did you perform? Opposition research?
Legislative research.
And what happened after your tenure with Senator Dole?
I went to work for Mills Godwin, who's running for governor of Virginia, specifically on the campaign of the Attorney General candidate, M. Patton Eccles, through Election Day '73.
And what happened after that campaign?
I don't recall.
Just run us through, make it quick, your employment history. Or
Well, as best
your work.
as best as I can remember, '73. From there, I go to the well, '75. I go to the Reagan for President campaign as National Youth Director through the convention of '76. After that, I become a founder of the National Conservative Political Action Committee. After which, I go back to work for Governor Reagan again in the 1980 campaign. Then I go back to the. Then I co-found a public affairs firm, Black Manafort and Stone. Then I take a leave from
Can I
there.
give the dates? When did you co-found Black Manafort?
Shortly
Stone?
after the 1980 election.
Was that Black Manafort, Stone, and Kelly?
Not at that point.
Okay. Did it later become that?
Yes, it did.
And when did that happen?
Don't recall.
And what type of work did you do as a partner?
Public affairs work.
Lobbying?
No, I had some lobby clients, but mostly not.
And how long were you with Black Manafort and Stone
Well, I took a
before it
leave.
became and Kelly?
I don't recall.
And how long were you with the firm total, even when it became Kelly?
I don't recall.
What did you do after that?
I worked on the president's re-election campaign in 1984.
Which president?
President Ronald Reagan.
And what did you do for President Ronald
I
Reagan?
was the Northeastern political director for all the states from Maine down to Delaware, and as well as Ohio.
And did you go back to Black Manafort, Stone, and Kelly after that?
I believe I did.
Okay. And how long were you there?
Till about, this is a guess, I believe around '89.
And what happened in 1989?
We sold the firm, and I was obviously no longer, well, we sold the firm. After that, I lose track. I think I go to work for myself.
Did you remain in Washington, D.C.?
I remained there until 9/11,
And
the attack of 9/11.
After 9/11, what did you do?
Moved to Florida.
Is that where you live today?
That is
And you're a
correct.
citizen of Florida.
Correct.
And what type of work have you done since you moved to Florida?
I've done a combination of public affairs work. I have written 2 blogs. I have written 5 books. I have served as a pundit, but I've been self-employed,
Pundit on InfoWars?
among others.
What others? Newsmax as well?
I've certainly been on Newsmax, Fox Television, OAN, so on.
Have you been paid by any of these media entities?
Only by InfoWars.
Did there come a point in time when you met me, Larry Klayman?
Yes, indeed.
When was that?
When you represented me.
Did I not meet you earlier than that at the Old Ebbitt Grill with regard to Jack Kemp?
I don't recall.
At the time that you met me, I had said I was interested in helping Jack Kemp.
It's entirely possible, I just don't recall.
And is it not true that you had me put on the Executive Finance Committee for Jack Kemp?
Objection to form.
I just don't recall. It's certainly possible, but I'm not certain.
Sitting on that executive, you were a supporter.
I was a supporter of Jack Kemp.
And in fact, you actually differed with your partner Lee Atwater and others, that you went off and represented Kemp
That is correct.
with regard to being nominated for president.
That's correct. But
What
I
year
was,
was
I
that?
was, of course, a volunteer.
What year was it?
1988.
And at that time, sitting on the Executive Finance Committee was also Donald Trump, correct? For Jack Kemp.
No, not that I recall. I believe he supported the vice president.
Okay. You have been sued by me and by Dr. Corsi, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. And in the course of being sued, you were sent document requests, correct?
That's correct.
And What did you do after you received the request for production of documents? How did you look for those documents?
I asked my attorneys to conduct the search because they had just conducted a search regarding federal matters.
What federal matters had they conducted a search?
I think it's rather obvious, is it not?
What is it? Put it on the record.
You have, I'm trying to remember the lead defendant, but, and Roger Stone, and then you have the federal criminal matter.
What access to information did you give your counsel?
All, entirely.
And what counsel actually conducted the search by name?
Grant Smith, who was with us today.
And Mr. Buchel as well?
Mr. Buchel certainly would have reviewed the material.
Did they have anyone assisting them in looking for documents that were responsive to plaintiff's document requests in the cases that you're here on today?
I am uncertain.
Did you give them access to computers, files? What did you give them access to?
Everything.
And what is that?
That would be computers, iPad, cell phone, text messages, phone records, everything.
What cell phone provider do you use?
AT&T.
Was it used at that time
Yes.
that you did the search? How long has it been?
At what time?
The time that the search was conducted by your counsel?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been using AT&T?
A very long time.
Which computers did you give them access to?
My main computer at home, which is a, not a PC, but a Mac.
Do you have a laptop?
I do, but I very rarely use it.
And you didn't give them access to
Yes,
that?
they had my laptop as well.
Did you give them access to phone records?
They had access to phone records through other searches.
You're aware that the document production requested the production of phone records as well?
There must not have been any phone records to produce, if you didn't get any.
Text messages, you're aware that it required
Yes,
the production of text messages?
certainly was. I believe that the text messages were provided.
Emails?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, you were convicted of not providing information to Congress which had been requested.
That is untrue.
Objection, and we're,
It's not true. That charge was withdrawn, but go ahead.
And your lawyers actually sent letters to Congress on your behalf saying that you did not have documents when you did, correct?
objection, I'm instructing the witness not to answer. We're not talking about any criminal matters.
No, we're not talking about criminal matters. We're talking about a course of conduct.
Okay,
That's what we're talking about.
all right.
Okay. We want to make sure he's aware that he needs to produce everything.
I'm well aware of that.
Okay.
You learned the hard way, right?
Objection, not answering. I'm
Just
instructing
because
the
you're
witness
delusional
not-
does not mean that I have to be badgered by you.
Am I delusional that you were convicted of 7 counts?
I'm not
Not
going to answer that
answering.
question.
Now, your residence, where was your residence located when the FBI came in with...
We're not answering these questions. So,
Oh, you can certify these that are not being answered.
Please do.
Yes. What computers did the FBI take?
All the same computers?
we're not
Pardon me.
answering these questions.
This is relevant to document production.
You're-
I'll tie it up.
Go ahead.
You're going to wind up getting sanctioned, Mr. Buchel.
No, you're going to wind up getting sanctioned,
This-
Mr.
this- this doesn't-
Claimant,
this-
like you are in D.C. So let's go.
Let's not do that.
Why not?
Continue.
Not
Let's-
going to be badgered by this
You're not
asshole.
badgered.
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Go ahead, keep,
Okay.
continue.
Now, I want to find out what computers did you buy after that FBI raided your house? Did you then buy new computers?
I'm not answering that question.
The FBI took all of your computers.
That is
right?
correct.
Okay. Did you have backup for what you had on your computers in your house before the FBI raided your house?
Back up. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Did you back up what was on those computers?
I think-
In other words, documents,
I think I
emails?
believe my lawyers had copies of everything that was on the computers, yes.
You anticipated possibly being raided by the FBI, so you gave them backup copies?
Objection. Do not answer that. We're not answering that.
Certified.
What does that have to do about your defamation? About you?
I
were
want to find out
defamed?
where the documents are.
There are no documents other than those you've been given.
So where did those documents come from as to what I've been given?
The search conducted by my attorneys.
It was totally within their purview to do the search?
That's correct.
You played no role?
Correct.
You didn't review what they did?
I reviewed it after the fact.
Do you know whether they removed documents that were to be produced?
I don't think they would do that. It would be unethical.
But you don't know one way or the other.
Either do you.
Well, we'll find out. That's why I'm
Maybe.
asking questions.
This is just a waste
Ask
of
your
time.
next question.
Now, when did you purchase new computers? Well, excuse me, did the FBI take your cell phones too?
Objection. We're not answering these questions about what the FBI
This
did
is
or
relevant.
didn't do.
This
No,
is
it's
relevant.
not.
Very few documents have been produced. I want to find out what devices they may be on that were recalled for that he no longer has in his possession or does have in his possession. That's a legitimate question.
Okay. Well, I disagree. I'm instructing.
Also,
you
my
not to
questions
answer.
about telling the truth are quite relevant in light of the history of this defense.
You've got your own problems in that regard, don't you?
Let's ask the next question.
What computers did they take from your house?
Objection.
The FBI.
I'm instructing him not to answer. We're not asking and having any discussions about criminal cases.
It's not criminal. I want to know what computers were taken. It has nothing to do with criminal. What computers were taken? Answer the question, please.
I've instructed him not to. Ask your next question.
What computers, if any, and cell phones, what were the make of the computers that were taken by the FBI?
Same. I'm instructing him not to answer.
What were the make of the phones that were taken by the FBI?
Same. Instructing him not to answer.
Now, the allegations of the complaints filed against you predate the raid of the FBI on your residence, correct?
If you know. If you know.
I'm not sure
Well,
that I know.
We'll be going through that. Now, what computers and cell phones did you purchase, if any, after the FBI took everything out of your house?
You've asked that 5 times
I
already.
have not.
Okay, well, I'm instructing
Yeah,
you not to
perhaps
answer.
your attention span is no greater than with regard to a notice of deposition, Mr. Bouchel.
Okay. Next question.
I'm asking the question again. What computers and cell phones did you purchase after
Okay.
your house was raided?
I'm
If any.
instructing the witness not to answer. It's irrelevant. We did our document search. We provided the documents. Ask questions about your
It's not
lawsuit.
harassment. I want to make sure that he understands. I control the deposition, and the court does, not you, Mr. Bouchel. Already you've shown a disrespect for court process. Now, where you keep files?
I do not.
Okay. Do you keep files in wherever you're living?
To the extent that I have files, yes.
Where are you now living?
I'm now living at.
Well, we'll give you his address off the record.
Do you keep paper files?
No, not really.
But you keep some.
Well, yeah,
You keep backup.
a little bit.
Okay. And what do you keep?
Well, an enormous amount of paperwork regarding this recent case.
What case?
The criminal case that I've just been through, that I'm not answering questions about.
Well, I'm not asking you questions about the criminal case.
But I just answered your question.
Do you have documents currently that concern Dr. Jerome Corsi?
I do not,
How do you know that?
because I know what I have.
Did you give your physical documents to your counsel to review?
Yes. Oh, it's actually the other way around. I think my counsel gave me the physical documents, since they almost virtually all come from discovery.
But you have some in your house, correct?
Some, yes.
And you didn't give them those, did you?
Objection.
They gave them to me. Why would I give them to them?
You write things down from time to time, do you not?
Certainly.
You keep notes.
Once in a while.
Did you give your counsel notes to review to see whether the notes would be relevant to any of the cases that you're here on today?
That would be work product then, wouldn't it? And he wouldn't have to turn it over.
No, that wouldn't be work product, Mr. Bouchel.
Yes.
Well, there are no such notes.
you
There
have-
are no such notes, so we can keep moving.
On a matter-by-matter basis, that could be claimed, but to have them reviewed, obviously they weren't reviewed for whether they're work product or anything else.
Objection. You're assuming facts, not evidence.
Well, I'm going to ask.
I think-
So, just to make it clear, you didn't give them any of the physical documents in your house to review in response to the request for production
Objection
in this
forum.
case.
It would be unnecessary because the documents I have came from them. They would be therefore well aware of them.
But you keep notes yourself, correct?
Not on any of these matters. I mean, yeah, I make a grocery list. Who doesn't?
You never write anything down.
Of course I write things down, but not pertaining to anything we're here to discuss.
You didn't write-
Just not all that
You didn't
important
write down
to
that
me,
Larry
guys.
Klayman's an asshole?
Did I write that down
Yeah.
with my hand, with my fingers?
Yeah.
Not that I
No,
recall.
okay. That just came to you.
Well, truth is an absolute defense.
We'll see.
Yes, indeed, we will.
And we'll see what the truth is.
Yes, we
Or
will.
won't. We're going to work from this binder. Mr. Michelle. Give one to the court reporter. These are documents that were produced by Dr. Coursey and I in the course of this litigation. There are some tax returns at the end which we are going to move with consent to put under seal, Mr. Stone, so I would ask that you not disseminate them or use them in any way other than in this case under seal. But let's start with my sworn affidavit on top, and I'll ask that that be marked. It entails, and you can just mark it right in the book,
Sure.
to make it easy. That's Exhibit 2 to the Stone deposition. And it entails 59 pages. You are aware, Mr. Stone, that I'm the founder of Judicial Watch?
I am.
Okay. You've spoken to Tom Fitton, haven't you?
One time in my entire life. I saw him backstage at a conference at Doral maybe a couple months ago, and we shook hands in passing. Beyond that, I've never spoken to the man.
You've spoken to others at Judicial Watch, though, haven't you?
No, actually, I haven't. Not that
You-
I recall.
You may have, but you just don't recall.
I don't recall ever speaking to anyone at Judicial Watch. I couldn't name anybody else at Judicial Watch other than Fitton, who I've seen online.
And you've sent emails to Fitton.
No, I don't believe I have.
You've sent text messages to Fitton.
No, I don't believe I have.
You've communicated with him through intermediaries.
I have not communicated with him at all.
You know what intermediary means?
I'm familiar with the term.
Now, there came a point in time when I left Judicial Watch, correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah. That was around September of 2003,
Objection to form,
correct?
if you know.
Now, I suggest that you don't make speaking objections if you know, okay? He knows. One
No,
way or the other.
actually, I don't know.
Okay, there came a point in time before September 2003 that a mutual friend named Scott Reed contacted you concerning me, correct?
Objection is as to form.
While that may be true, I don't recall.
Who was Scott Reed?
Scott Reed was a friend of mine.
Okay. At the time, he was chief of staff to Jack Kemp at Housing and Urban Development, correct?
Objection to form, assumes facts.
I just, chronologically, I don't recall.
I'm just moving it along here, okay? Otherwise, we'll be here even longer. Now, Scott Reed had formerly been the number 2 at the Republican National Committee under then Chairman Haley Barbour, correct?
That sounds correct, but I'm unsure of the exact years.
And Scott Reed told you that I was interested in running for the U.S. Senate,
That is correct.
correct? and that at that time, it was known publicly that the current senator, one of the current senators from Florida, Bob Graham, was going to retire. There'd be an open seat, correct?
Objection to form.
I don't really recall.
You don't recall
I
that?
remember that. I believe there was an open seat. I couldn't tell you what year it was.
Okay. There came a point in time after Reed contacted you that you and I met, correct?
Yes.
And where did we meet?
Don't recall.
We met in New York City, correct?
Objection
Don't
to form.
recall.
You had an apartment there close to the plaza.
Objection to form.
I did have one at one time, but I don't recall the
And-
specific meeting.
And we had dinner, correct?
Objection.
Don't recall.
During that meeting, we discussed whether you would be my campaign manager on the Senate campaign that I had planned to undertake in Florida,
Objection to
correct?
form.
I don't think I've ever been a campaign manager in the last 30
Or
years.
you would play a role in it,
Yes, I would agree with that.
okay? And I told you that if I was to retain you to do that, you would have to be exclusive to me and not representing any other political or potential political candidate.
I have
Objection to form.
no such memory.
Okay. And I told you that if you were to work with me, you could not, you had to do things ethically,
Objection to form.
correct?
I have no such memory.
You have no memory of anything dealing with ethics?
Objection to form. That's argument.
There came a point in time when we worked together in anticipation of my running for office in Florida, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and what was your capacity?
I believe I was working as a strategist.
And you were then on Miami Beach. You had your own office down there.
That is correct.
You still have that office?
Do not.
And you went out and you found office space, correct?
At your direction, as I recall.
It was on Alton Road. And you then recruited people to work on the campaign, correct?
At your direction, yes.
People that you had known that were friends.
People I knew,
Objection.
friends, I don't mean, people I thought were competent professionals.
Who did you recruit?
Let's see. Michael Caputo, Teddy Siegel. I don't recall beyond that.
There was somebody that was a weightlifter that was allegedly my security guard.
Oh, Adam Powers.
Adam Powers. And you also brought in a pollster, did you not? In anticipation of my declaring for the Senate in Florida in 2003.
Normally, that would be the first step in any campaign, so I don't recall
And that was
specifically.
Tony Fabrizio, correct?
Sounds right. I think he's the best in the business.
And you lined up a polling agreement with him, correct?
I don't recall.
Wherein he charged me $50,000 for a $10,000 survey, correct?
I don't
Objection to form.
know that that's true.
You'd arranged for kickbacks from Fabrizio. didn't you?
Absolutely
Objection to
not.
form.
Now,
Do you have some evidence of that?
well, the fact that it's 5 times what it would cost.
You have no idea what a survey costs.
Yeah.
How would you know?
Ask your next
Apparently you
question.
do.
I do know.
Yeah.
And a comprehensive statewide survey does not cost $10,000.
All right. So in the course, after we decided to work together, you put together a binder of materials about cases that I had been involved in and matters that I had been involved in as the head and founder of Judicial Watch, correct?
I have no such memory.
In fact, you spent a lot of time putting those binders together, did you not?
Objection to form.
Is your memory that bad, Mr. Stone?
Objection to form.
It's-
Argumentative.
In all honesty, it wasn't all that important to me. I've been through quite a bit. No, I don't recall any of that.
We had several meetings in anticipation of my declaring for the Senate, correct?
Objection to form.
Don't recall. Likely, but I don't recall.
We met in your office, correct?
I don't recall.
You had a secretary then, or an assistant. What was her name?
Diane Thorne, perhaps?
Where is she located today?
I believe she's in Miami somewhere.
How is Thorne spelled?
Thorne.
Okay. And she helped you put together those binders, did she not?
I don't recall.
And in those binders, you had a number of my successes at Judicial Watch, correct?
I don't recall.
Okay. You are aware that when I was at Judicial Watch, I played a role in triggering the Chinagate scandal. Remember the
Objection
Chinagate scandal?
Objection.
I don't recall.
Okay. You're aware that I'm the only lawyer who ever got a court to rule that a president of the United States, Bill Clinton, had committed a crime. It was in a civil context.
Objection.
You're aware of that?
No, actually, I wasn't aware of that.
You're aware that I brought a case against the Commerce Department, then run by Ron Brown.
Objection form. If you're aware.
Okay. No, I wasn't.
You wear your under oath, aren't you, Mr.?
Yes,
Stein?
I certainly
Okay.
am.
You
I
want to
just-
recreate what happened?
This is that those
Sorry if I haven't
comments-
I'm sorry if I haven't memorized your bio, but it's just not that
Yeah,
important
these-
to me.
These
I don't know. I don't know the answer to the
Well,
question.
apparently, it
These
was
comments are argumentative and are not questions. So
well, I can't stand to sit
well,
here
it doesn't
silent
matter. It doesn't
with
matter.
perjured
but
testimony.
It
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
matter. It doesn't matter, and I move to strike your comment.
You're aware that telling the truth is not only telling the truth, but not withholding the truth, material facts.
We've been through
right?
this. He's under oath. Ask a question
No,
about
you're
the
aware of that?
cases. Ask the
You're aware of
question
that?
about the cases.
You aware of that?
Ask a question about
Are you
the
aware
case.
that it also entails not forgetting when you or claiming to forget when you actually remember?
I don't remember any of the things you've just cited. Sorry.
Do you remember that someone who worked on that campaign with me was a person named Sandy Kobus?
Yes.
Okay. Sandy was my chief of staff in Miami before she came to work on the campaign
Yes.
at Judicial Watch.
Yes. Nice lady.
So she knows what went on, correct?
What
Objection
went on?
form.
What's the
With,
implication?
with the binders and the background
I have no
research.
idea what she knows.
Okay. And you know that she had a daughter named Lisette Tortora, Tortora.
I did not recall that.
Okay. In fact, you decided to work with me, represent me, as you put it, as a consultant, because you were impressed with the work that I had done at Judicial Watch.
Well, I think the reason I wanted to work with you is because you told me you had access to the Judicial Watch House file, and that would be necessary to finance a Senate campaign in a state this large, and with these expensive media markets. Otherwise, it would be fruitless to try to run for the Senate without money.
So what you were interested in was money, making
No,
money.
I was interested in having the money to communicate your message.
So what I told you is that Richard Viguerie had a copy of that list, correct?
You told me you co-owned the list, as I recall, because that was a standard in the industry.
Well, regardless of that, you intended to make money off of doing consulting for me. You didn't do it for free.
Objection.
I was never paid anything, if that's what you're asking me.
Now, in fact, when our relationship ended, the people that you brought in took computers I had purchased with my own money and cell phones, correct?
Objection form.
I have no knowledge of that.
And Michael Caputo was one of the people that misappropriated that
Objection form.
I have no idea.
property.
I have no idea.
You're aware that I later wrote a book, autobiography, Horrors, Why and How I Came to Fight the Establishment.
I'm unaware of that.
You never seen that?
No, I haven't.
Okay, you're aware that I wrote about our so-called relationship in that book?
Objection form.
I don't recall.
You weren't contacted by reporters who asked you about your role in my campaign?
Honestly, don't recall.
Now, at the same time that you were supposed to be representing me, you were actually also representing Al Sharpton, correct?
That is incorrect. I've never represented Al Sharpton.
Or you
I
were-
know the gentleman.
You were helping Al Sharpton, correct?
I was indeed.
What was he doing in 2003 politically?
Disrupting the Democratic Party
Okay. How was he disrupting the
by
Democratic
running for
Party?
president on a radical platform.
So you were telling me when you would leave Miami to go up north that you were seeing your sick father, correct?
I did see my sick father.
Yeah, but
He was ill at that time.
Notwithstanding that, whether that's true or not, you were also up there to consult with Al Sharpton.
No, I
correct?
never consulted with Al Sharpton. I'm certainly entitled to meet the gentleman if I wish.
And you were working with him to, as you put it, disrupt the Democratic Party.
And that was my goal
And how was he going to disrupt it?
by running on a radical platform, which drives the party to the left.
You know, you weren't honest with me, were you, that you were going to be exclusive to working with me?
Objection.
I don't believe I had any other client at that time.
Where are the binders that you put together with regard to my campaign today?
Objection of form.
I have no idea.
In one of the meetings that we had, it was at your then home, correct, in North Miami?
Don't recall.
You did have a home in North Miami, correct?
At one time, yes.
Right, it was on the banks of the Biscayne Bay.
No, I think it was on the canal, but
It was,
that was on the canal.
It was on Waterway.
Yes, it was on a waterway.
Okay, and you remember sitting there with me outside, do you not?
I do not.
Okay, you remember saying, gee, isn't this great, smoking a cigar? I feel like I'm Hyman Roth.
Don't recall that at all.
You have an admiration for the mafia. do you know?
Objection of form. And do you have a year for this, by the way? Can you-
No, we have 2 days of mafia. Do you?
I do not.
Objection of form.
The consulting that you did for Donald Trump was in the gambling industry, correct?
I represented his Trump hotels and casino resorts, yes.
It's well known that the mafia is present in the gambling industry.
Objection of form. Okay, fine. It assumes facts, not in evidence.
There are allegations to that case, but I don't know anybody who would meet that description. The Casino Control Commission in New Jersey has very, very rigorous regulation of the industry. So I would doubt that that's true in the New Jersey industry, which is the only market in which
No.
Donald Trump ever owned
I'm not saying
casinos.
that President Trump is mafia or has associations. I'm saying the gambling industry has a significant component of the mafia.
I don't know how he's qualified to even say that. So,
I've read that, but I don't know it to be true. I don't think it's true in New Jersey because of their rigorous regulatory scheme.
Now, Hyman Roth was the character that played Meyer Lansky in the movie The Godfather, correct?
Yes.
And you have an admiration for him.
I never said anything of the kind.
And you have an admiration for Roy Cohn, too, C-O-H-N.
Roy Cohn was a friend of mine, yes.
The binders which you kept had a number of my successes in it, both
yeah.
at Judicial Watch and in my private capacity as a lawyer, did it not?
objection.
I have no recall.
To form. Go ahead.
I have no recall of any such binders.
Now, you wouldn't have represented me if I was a loser, would you?
I thought that you, if you had the money, could be a viable candidate for the
A
Senate.
loser can't win for the Senate in Florida, correct?
Not without money.
A loser could win?
No, a loser cannot win
Okay.
unless they have money.
What
This is what define loser in your context. of your
Someone
sentence.
who loses cases repeatedly and who accomplishes little to nothing, in this case, in the legal profession.
I'm not sure I understand the question. How did you do in the Senate race?
We'll get to that.
Yeah?
Thanks to you.
No, thanks to you.
No, thanks to you.
Where's that list, Larry?
Now, what is it that, other than money, caused you to represent me in the Senate race?
We were friends at that time. You had just, as I recall, come out of Judicial Watch. You wanted to run for the Senate, and you told me, access to the necessary elements of raising a substantial amount of money in one of the most expensive states in the country to run for a statewide office.
Now, at the time that I declared, you had arranged for a tour of Florida on a private jet, correct?
I don't recall.
And we went to 3 different locations.
I don't recall.
We went to Tampa, Orlando, and Miami, correct?
I don't recall.
You were actually on the plane with me.
Objection to form.
No, I don't believe that's true.
Who was on the plane with me?
I don't recall there even being a plane.
Now, Michael Caputo was on that plane, wasn't he?
I
Objection to
don't.
form.
I have no idea.
And you're aware that that at each location I gave a speech, correct?
I don't even recall the tour, so I couldn't say.
And you helped prepare that speech, did you not?
I don't recall.
You're aware that at the time the governor of Florida was Jeb Bush.
It sounds correct, but I'm uncertain.
You had sold your services to me in part by saying that you strongly disliked the Bushes, correct?
That is definitely true. I've written a book on the subject.
Okay. But you still urged me to call him when I declared for the Senate as a courtesy as the governor of Florida,
I
correct?
think that would be the protocol. I don't recall that specifically, but normally speaking, that would be the protocol.
Now, we parted ways, did we not?
I believe we did.
And what did you do after we parted ways? What did you do after that? Work for Sharpton?
Never worked for Al Sharpton.
Consulted with him?
Never
Informally?
Never consulted. No, he's a friend of mine. I gave him advice when he asked for it.
Do you have friends that are basically race baiting vigilante extortionists?
Objection. Don't.
You consider
Stop.
those your friends?
Objection to form. I'm instructing the witness not to answer. I mean, for a
Are there
defamation
others?
case, you just defamed Al Sharpton.
Are there others? You can't defame Al Sharpton.
I can't defame you either.
That's what you think. We'll let a jury decide that.
I doubt it.
Do you have faith in the jury system?
Objection to form. These are not relevant questions. Ask your next relevant question, please.
You are aware that after I left, or after the Senate campaign, I started a group called Freedom Watch, correct?
I don't know when you founded Freedom Watch. I do know you started such a group.
And you're aware that while I was at Freedom Watch, and still am, I obtained preliminary injunctions against the National Security Agency for illegal mass surveillance.
Objection to form.
I was unaware of that.
You read the media routinely, do you not?
I do, but
that's
I
your
don't.
job.
But I don't recall reading that.
Now, you have an interest in the mass surveillance that's been conducted on President Trump.
I
Do you
do.
not, right?
I do.
And you're aware that it had been conducted on others before him by the NSA, FBI, CIA.
I believe that to be true, but I don't recall reading about you in that context.
And you believe that they've conducted mass surveillance on you, illegal mass surveillance, correct?
Objection to form.
The New York Times reported that on January 20th, 2017 on page 1.
Now, notwithstanding your, quote, not remembering, unquote, if an individual is able to obtain a preliminary injunction against the NSA, the CIA, or the FBI with regard to mass surveillance, that's quite a legal achievement, is it not,
Objection to form.
in terms of its mass surveillance?
Answer if you'd like.
In all honesty, I'm not an attorney, so I couldn't tell you what a preliminary injunction means.
That is getting a court to order that the activity, the alleged illegal activity cease? You're aware of that?
Objection to form.
You don't know that?
Not aware, do not know that.
You're aware that I played a role at Freedom Watch in having Obama's $5 million illegal alien amnesty executive order declared void, null and
Objection to
void.
form.
Not familiar with that.
That wasn't widely reported either?
I can't tell you whether it was widely reported. I certainly didn't read it.
You're aware that the injunctions that I did get against the NSA and the other intelligence agencies and FBI gave rise to the USA Freedom Act.
Objection to form.
Congress passed a new law.
Objection
Unfamiliar
to form.
with that.
Now, if in fact that was the case, that would be quite a legal achievement, wouldn't it?
Objection to form.
You're asking for a conclusion. I'm unaware of any of those things.
Okay, you don't read the media at all.
I do read the media, but you're not ubiquitous in the media.
Okay, see, these are the documents that were requested, okay, as to what you know about me, mentioning me. Remarks about me on InfoWars.
Yes,
Objection.
indeed.
Okay.
Objection to form.
You're aware that I'm a columnist on WorldNet Daily, correct?
I am not.
You've written articles for WorldNet Daily, haven't you?
I'm uncertain. I don't think so. But I'm uncertain.
You're aware that I have a radio show, Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman?
Did not know that.
Your role as a political consultant with Black Manafort and Stone was to,
Call in the chips.
well, profit from that.
Abstain from objection.
Get someone elected president and then trade off of of your dirty trickster.
No,
you
actually,
know?
I haven't, and I forced the Los Angeles Times to retract that. The self-described dirty trickster is not how I have described myself. I have commented that I've been called that, and therefore I'm probably stuck with it. But no, I have not proclaimed myself to be said.
What was that documentary that was done about you by Netflix? What was that called?
It's called Get Me, Roger Stone.
Get Me,
It
Roger
was
Stone.
a quote from James A. Baker III.
Now, during that documentary, you touted the fact that you are a master of political dirty tricks.
I don't know that I specifically said that.
What did you say?
Don't recall.
Film speaks for itself, right?
You can go look at the film, I guess.
Okay. In 1996, you were accused of, at the Republican Convention in San Diego, of attending a swingers party. You remember that?
Objection to form.
Relevance?
Yeah. What's the relevance of that?
That's when I represented you with regard to get the media off your back, correct?
I think that's correct.
You later advocated for me to become U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, did you not?
I don't recall that, but I certainly may have.
Now, you wouldn't advocate for somebody that's a loser to be U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of
Well, what
Yeah,
year
but
was
you-
that? What year was that?
So you're saying I became a loser after that?
All I'm saying is that I look at the totality. That was the impression I had, yes.
Okay. What research did you do to determine that I never won a case?
Don't know that you need research to express an opinion. That was an opinion.
No, that's a fact, isn't it? Either you win a case or you don't win a case.
If you say so.
A statement like that can damage a lawyer in terms of his ability to obtain clients, his reputation, and his goodwill, correct?
Objection to form. And
You can respond.
You do enough of that on your own.
But you're aware that that can be very damaging to a lawyer in terms of his reputation and goodwill, correct?
Since I'm not a lawyer, I don't know that.
No one's going to hire a lawyer that loses every case. correct?
I wouldn't, that's for sure.
You hired Mr. Bushell, right?
Yes, I have.
Did he win?
He's won a number of
Objection
cases.
form. This,
He certainly won the case against the DNC, and he won the Cockrum case, yes.
And despite the fact that he lost your criminal prosecution, he's still your lawyer, correct?
On this matter, he is, yes.
And Mr. Smith.
On this matter, yes.
You were alleged with regard to that swingers party of wearing a toga, correct?
Objection of form.
Don't recall.
And posting pictures on the internet of yourself half naked.
Objection of form.
Half naked is defined as not wearing a shirt, I think.
And you had told me at the time that that was your houseboy that posted that.
That's what I believed at the time.
You posted it, didn't you?
Don't recall doing that, no.
I'm going to turn your attention to page 10. Of Exhibit 2, paragraph 58.
Of exhibit.
This one, yeah. Page 10.
Yep.
This is a appearance that was published by InfoWars on January 18, 2019. That's what's being referenced in paragraph 58, correct?
Yes. Appears to be.
Now, what is InfoWars?
It's a online, conservative-oriented news organization.
And how did they disseminate, at that time, how did they disseminate their broadcasts?
Online.
And it was on YouTube at the time?
19, yes, it would be on YouTube.
What was your relationship with InfoWars on or about January 18, 2019?
At that point, I was an occasional contributor. I had no business relationship with them.
You're aware that InfoWars had many viewers at that time?
Yes.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
They had millions of viewers, correct?
I think that's probably true, yes.
And they still do.
I couldn't tell you what their viewership is today.
And many of those viewers are in the state of Florida, correct?
I would think so, yes.
Yes. And in their videos, they solicit money, correct, to buy products that InfoWars sells.
They sell products, yes.
Now, the head of InfoWars at the time, in terms of the broadcast, was Alex Jones, correct?
That is correct.
Was he the sole owner of was he an owner of InfoWars at that time?
I don't know what the ownership of InfoWars is.
He has a father, does he not?
He does.
Who's that?
I don't recall his name.
He's an owner as well, correct?
I don't know that.
The broadcast which you made on January 18, 2019, you referred to me, Larry Klayman, correct?
That appears to be the case.
Why did you refer to me during that broadcast?
I suspect because you did something I didn't like.
What did I do that you didn't like?
Don't recall.
So you'll make negative statements about somebody even if you don't know whether anyone did anything that you
I'm
didn't
entitled
like?
to an opinion. It's it's a free country.
So it just came out of the blue.
Don't recall what prompted it, to be honest with you.
In fact, you thought somehow that I was going to be a threat to you, with regard to Special Counsel Robert Mueller's so-called Russian collusion investigation.
Objection of form.
I'm not going to answer that.
We're not talking about the
Okay.
criminals.
You were concerned about my experience with you at the time, that you were consulting on my Senate campaign in Florida, correct?
Conjecture on your part.
You were concerned that your staff had misappropriated computers and cell phones and the like, which I had purchased with my own money.
Absolutely not, and I don't know that there's any proof of that.
Now, you were concerned that I didn't like you in some way, correct?
Not particularly. That doesn't concern me one way or another.
You were concerned that I was angry at you for the time period that you represented me, allegedly represented me, because you were doing Sharpton.
No, actually, I was angry at you, but that's okay.
Okay, why were you angry at me?
Because a number of misstatements and falsehoods that you told me regarding your ability to raise money.
Okay, well, money's all that's important to you, right?
Money is
Objection
important in
affirmed.
terms of getting you elected to the Senate,
And it's
yes.
important to fill your pockets.
You never, do you not work for money, Mr. Clayman? You never paid me a dime.
You violated my trust, did you not?
You
Objection
violated my
affirmed.
trust, Mr. Clayman.
Okay. Now, you were also concerned that it had been reported that I was representing Dr. Jerome Corsi on January 18, 2019.
Conjecture on your part, I don't recall.
You feared Dr. Jerome Corsi, did you not?
No, absolutely not.
You made a number of derogatory and statements about him as well during the course of the Russian collusion investigation.
We're not answering questions about.
All right, we'll get to the specifics, but you don't get to decide what he answers, okay, Mr. Bichel?
But I do, so I'm not answering questions regarding that.
Okay. Certify it.
Please do.
Now, at 1:25 of that broadcast, back up. You were concerned somehow that Dr. Corsi was going to collaborate with Special Counsel Robert Mueller and his staff against you, correct?
Conjecture on
I'm
your
going-
part.
Yeah, and also, let's not get into
I'm
it.
not asking about my conjecture, I'm asking about you.
We're not talking about anything
You were
related
concerned,
to.
right?
We're not talking about anything related to that. I told you that in court when we agreed to have this
Intent is an
deposition.
issue here, okay? So
Okay.
you're
Well,
not,
I'm instructing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, you're going to wind up getting yourself sanctioned, Mr. Bichel.
No, you're going to get
Okay.
yourself sanctioned, Mr.
Yeah.
Clayman.
All right.
As you have been
Don't.
in D.C., as I recall.
Ask your next question, please.
Now, Dr. Jerome Corsi was material witness number one in your indictment by Special Counsel Robert Mueller, correct?
I say we're not talking about
I'm laying
any
a foundation.
special counsel.
I'm laying a
indictment.
foundation. These statements were made in the context of an ongoing criminal
That you
investigation and, let me finish, all right?
Sure.
Criminal investigation and prosecution of the defendant, in this case, Stone, okay? And motive and intent is relevant in this case, particularly with regard to punitive damages or anything else. So I'm entitled to ask these questions.
May I respond now?
You can respond.
Okay. The purpose of this deposition was to have all these cases consolidated, including discovery. You represented to me that Newsmax would also be a part of it. That didn't work out. They're here, but they're not required to ask questions. You're permitted to come back on a different day. We didn't get the benefit of the bargain, meaning sitting here having a full and complete deposition. Mr. Stone still has issues regarding the criminal case, so we're not going to be answering questions today about anything relating to the special counsel's indictment or anything relating to that case.
Are you instructing him to take the Fifth Amendment?
No, I'm not instructing him
Then
to
he
take
has
the
to
Fifth
answer.
Amendment. No, I'm instructing him not to answer.
Then you're
them.
obstructing the deposition.
I am not. There are motions to dismiss pending as to Mr. Corsi, and this is the time you demanded to have this deposition. I try to accommodate. It didn't work out. We'll do it another day.
You're the one, we're doing it now. You're the one who suggested the consolidation, correct, to the judge?
And I just explained to you
Singh
what
Devil.
happened. I just explained to you what happened. So let's ask.
Well, there's
other
actually an
questions,
order which consolidates the discovery, correct?
which is not really consolidated. is
Are
it?
you defying that order like you did the notice of deposition this morning?
I did not defy any
Coming up
order.
with nonsense as to why you didn't know where this was when you came in 40 minutes late?
Thank you,
Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Klayman. Move on. Let's go.
Now, you were concerned that Larry Klayman and Dr. Jerome Corsi were going to do something in collaboration with Robert Mueller that would affect you in the criminal investigation and prosecution by the special counsel, correct?
I'm not answering any questions pertaining to...
Certify it.
Yes, do.
And that's why you then launched these statements about me on InfoWars.
Speculation on your part.
And you're aware that I was Corsi's counsel.
We're not answering these questions.
Certify it. At 125, you say, defendant Stone, you say, he's, meaning Klayman, never actually won a courtroom victory in his life.
I believe,
said that, correct?
I believe that to be true at the time, yes.
Now, you never did any research, did you, to find out whether that was true or not before you made that statement?
That is an
correct?
impression that I had, yes.
Okay. But in fact, you actually did know that I had had courtroom victories.
No, actually I didn't.
Or you wouldn't have wanted to be my so-called consultant in the Senate campaign.
That was a long time before this.
Okay. You then say at 1:30, defendant Stone says he, meaning Klayman, was ousted at Judicial Watch. Ask Tom Fitton why he left. He was ousted because of a sexual harassment complaint.
Yes, I'd heard that.
And where did you hear that?
Don't recall.
You heard it from Fitton, didn't you?
I most certainly did not.
Okay, but you remember that, but you don't remember where you heard it.
I don't remember what I heard, but as I've told you previously, I've never spoken to Tom Fitton other than the one time in passing when we shook hands.
And during
we
that
certainly
one,
didn't discuss
and
this.
during that one time in passing, you discussed this, correct?
We did not.